2, 1. Oh man, clapping cheeks.
That'd be horrible. That'd be a horrible scene if we all got up and pulled down our pants and clapped our cheeks for the sync.
Says you.
No one wants to see that. Unless you wanted to get your Twitch subscribers up again, Tim.
That's why this isn't a video podcast. The people do not want to see that.
Yeah. Hello and welcome to Dan and Pat Podcast, episode 511. Tim, do you get that CPU installed yet?
Hell no. I'm scared. I don't know how to do it.
I know.
I'm scared.
I offered to come down and help.
I mean, you can if you want to. Like I said, I'm not going to say no, but that's a long drive just to
It's not
put a
that
CPU
long.
in a computer.
It's pretty long. Yeah, it's pretty. It can be long. But
It's
I've done
boring,
drives
too.
like that.
It's
it
just
is boring.
It's a straight shot, and there's nothing to look at. Yeah.
I drove that direction, or coming back, or both ways. At 2 a.m. It was like 2 a.m. and I was driving back.
Was that for that person from college's wedding?
Yeah.
And you never spoke to them again?
No, haven't heard from them in a long time.
Wait, have you seriously not spoken to them again since it's their wedding?
I think we've interacted a couple times on like Instagram or something, but other than that, not too much.
Thanks for the gift.
That's Tim Spence. How you doing, Tim?
Yeah, how's it going, Tim?
What?
Yeah, that's
doing
All right, episode over.
Are you all right?
just short circuit the episode, and it just cuts to the ending music. Yeah, all good.
Okay. All right, Matt. How are you?
I'm doing all right. Yeah.
You had an exciting day, Matt?
Oh yeah. Yeah. My car's brakes failed. Like outright while driving.
That's not exciting. That's fucking scary.
It was fucking scary. Well, what saved me was I was running late for a doctor's appointment, so I kind of like ran out, and it's cold here, so like usually I'll let the car warm up, but I was like, all right, like I just kind of can't, like I'll just kind of go, and my car's pretty old, but like whatever, so I like throw in reverse, and when it's cold and driving cold, it like just is a little bit louder. So I think it covered up the sound of my brakes, which I wasn't aware was making a sound. So I back out of the driveway, which is down a hill, and I get on the road, and I kind of realize like I have a weird stop. Like I kind of like reverse, stop, put it in drive, and then drive forward. And I was like just about to kind of like rip down the road. And I was like, that feels a little weird. Then I was like, it'll be all right. Throw it in drive. I'm about to hit the gas. I'm like, I should probably see if I could stop. Like that felt weird. Like something didn't feel right. And then I hit the brake as the car is, because I live on a hill, is rolling down a hill. And I was like, oh, fuck. And I can only slow the car. I can't stop it. So I was like, okay, I guess I'm in the middle of the road at this point. It's a busy road. I'm like, all right, I guess I'm going to pull back into the driveway. So I pull back into the driveway and I'm like, okay, I'll only like use the gas to the top of the hill. And then like, I'll see if I could stop. And I tried to stop for like a good, like, I don't know, 3-4 meters, like not too far, but a good like 3-4 meters. And I'm like, well, now I'm rolling toward the house and I have no brakes. So I'm going to like, I hit like a part of hitting the brakes because they were still slowing the car, where I was like, okay, I'm confident the e-brake will stop me. So I hit the e-brake and then turned it off. And yeah, that was a bit of an adventure. So that was today. I was telling Ryan that like at the end of my road, you have to like take like kind of a sharp turn. And like straight up, if I had like not double checked, I would have been in the park. Like been in the park, smashed into like a house or something. But really, it would have been bad. Like it would have definitely been bad because I wouldn't have, because the brakes were slowing me, but they weren't enough, right? It was like, the way I can describe it is they were hissing the whole way and I was getting a fixed amount of power no matter how hard I hit the brake. So basically, if I had gone faster, it would have taken even longer for me to stop. So I probably wouldn't have reacted in time because it wouldn't have been no brakes right away. It would have been like a little bit of brakes, right? And I would have been like, what the hell? And then tried to like stop more. And so I would have went out in the highway and probably got hit, likely.
But then you would have had an excuse to get a new car finally.
It's still me. I'd probably be like, you can get a couple doors,
Oh.
assuming I survive.
Yeah. Yeah, as you're hanging out the window.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, don't say I wouldn't have been a front end. It would have been T-bone. It would have been even worse.
Oh, Jesus. All right, Matt, do you have a video game fun fact for us?
I do.
Take it away.
So this is how the master cylinder in a car brake works. No, that's not. Absolutely not. No, Just yesterday, I decided to stay on the PlayStation Plus top tier because I'm going to try some more streaming this year. I'm going to see if it saves me money, because I was going to upgrade my hard drive in my PlayStation by putting one of those SSDs in there. And so I decided to stay on the premium version of the PS Plus just to see if it saves me money overall for this year. Try it for 1 year. And it reminded me, or got me thinking of where streaming largely began, at least for me. And that was through a service called OnLive. So I thought I would do a bit of a fun fact on that. So OnLive, personally, I saw it for the first time ever on Electric Playground with Victor Lucas on G4 Tech TV. And it was like a really big sort of like revolutionary thing, like came out way before its time. So OnLive debuted in 2010, and it introduced the world to cloud gaming, which at the time was a revolutionary concept that allowed players to stream high quality PC games on almost any device. This includes tablets, smart TVs, and laptops. Now, founder Steve Perlman envisioned a future where gaming hardware didn't matter, eliminating the need for expensive consoles or expensive PCs. And OnLive's library wasn't really bad either. You might think like, oh, this thing probably got a few indie games, kind of like how when Netflix got started with their streaming. Oh, I forget Ouya. Or when Netflix got started with their streaming service. There was just sort of like indie movies, smaller movies on there, maybe a few quote unquote AAA movies, big Hollywood movies. But this thing had like some bangers on here. It had The Witcher 2 at the time. It did have some indie games like Braid. It had Trine on there, but it also had things like Assassin's Creed 2, Borderlands, and Batman Arkham Asylum. So this thing had a lot of cool games on here. Now, games were streamed instantly, like we're familiar with today, without requiring downloads. And this is obviously way before even like a beta or alpha or a leak or anything of a service that we're familiar with, such as Xbox Game Pass or the PlayStation Plus streaming, whatever you want to call that. Now, OnLive worked through this little sort of MicroConsole or a tiny gaming machine. So they introduced this product called the MicroConsole. It was a small, affordable set-top box that allowed users to play games on their TVs with a wireless controller. Priced at just $99, it was a cost-effective alternative to traditional consoles. However, its success was hindered by the service's dependence on strong internet connectivity. Now, remember, this is 2010. So if you, at least in Canada, had 5 megabytes down and like 0.6 up, you had like broadband internet and you were doing okay. There were certainly people, and they weren't necessarily rare, that had really good internet, like 50 up and maybe 15 up and things like that. And like 50 down, things like that. But it wasn't super common. Now, the latency, which was the input delay, was the biggest hurdle that OnLive faced. The company built custom data centers to help reduce these delays, but the gamers with slow or inconsistent internet connections still often experience noticeable lag. This makes sense because back then we would have a lot of things like a lot of internet problems. Like we would have, kind of at-home internet problems where like the router wasn't powerful enough, which we still experience today to some extent, but the router wasn't powerful enough for what everyone was doing in the home. You would have everybody, let's say, that wanted really fast internet, quote unquote, at the time. They would all be on cable, and then there would be like the famous, like, well, at 3 p.m. your internet's just going to go down to crap speeds because everyone's online, and it's like the whole literal neighborhood is taking the internet down. So this unfortunately made OnLive really difficult to play fast shooters on or fighting games. And so any players that were looking for a challenging game like this, or any games that required any sort of timing precision, were kind of like, I'm out on the OnLive thing. And I believe if you didn't want to use the MicroConsole, this isn't part of my research, I'm just kind of remembering in my own, but if I remember correctly, you may have been able to just use the internet browser, but don't quote me on that. Now, OnLive had a host of other features other than just gaming online or game streaming. Things like spectator mode, where players could watch live streams of other gamers' sessions in real time. This was years before Twitch and YouTube gaming had kind of like popularized streaming like it is today. They had another feature called instant demos, where players could try out games for free with no downloads. And these were often given out in sort of 30-minute little playable demos. And this is actually something that PlayStation Plus tier gives us. They give you premium, PlayStation Plus Premium. It gives you, for some games, it'll give you like a 2-hour trial and be like, hey, try this out. There was another feature here called Brag Clips, where users could record and share short gameplay clips directly from the platform. And this anticipated, of course, the focus on user-generated content in modern gaming, because there's like today, if you watch like even just like a laptop ad, completely not gaming related, a lot of the time they'll mention this is great for content creators and whatever. Content creation was starting, but it wasn't like huge in 2010. And games could be played anywhere across devices, allowing a player to have like a cloud save, like a save anywhere, where they would say, go on a tablet, and then they would go on a PC, and then they would use their microconsole and go on their TV. Now, unfortunately, despite all these innovations, OnLive faced significant challenges, which included high operating costs. This is due to the custom data centers being extremely expensive, and they had a small user base, of course. Many regions didn't even have broadband infrastructure that was good enough to support smooth cloud gaming experiences. So, like, not even the top tier internet in some places could even run this thing. And they also were criticized for having confusing pricing models. So they had a mix of subscription and a la carte purchases, and this kind of confused some consumers because at the time, that kind of stuff was not that big. Like everyone was still sort of like going to EB Games or GameStop and buying and then trading in and things like that. So in April of 2015, so about 5-ish years after their debut, OnLive sold 140 of its patents and intellectual property to Sony. Sony absorbed OnLive's technology into its own cloud gaming service, PlayStation Now, which launched in 2014, and it became the first successful cloud gaming subscription service. Following that sale, OnLive shut down its service entirely on April 30th, 2015. Now, OnLive may have failed commercially, but its groundbreaking ideas had paved the way for today's cloud gaming landscape. So now we enjoy things like Amazon Luna. That's a thing where it's like almost like on the side, and you're like, what is that thing? Like now streaming has become like so mundane that even like Amazon can just like support this random kind of side service. Then you have like the bigger players like GeForce Now, you have Xbox Cloud Gaming, you have PlayStation Plus streaming, which of course was PlayStation Now at the time, which is just like more or less a rebrand. And that's it. That is OnLive, the people who kind of pioneered the way toward our streaming. I don't want to say streaming future because who knows, but streaming availability in games.
Streaming present.
Streaming present. Yeah. Yeah.
I would still like to know, how many people are actually streaming games, and B, is it their primary use, or are they just using it when they're away or, as a fun thing to kind of play around with? Like GeForce Now seems to be supported pretty well. It's actually coming to the Apple Vision Pro, which is kind of wild, so they're trying to push it into all these different places. And so it must be doing well for them, which I find kind of interesting. I did want to try it. They had like a weekend pass or like a day pass. You can get like their highest tier where you get the best streaming rates and whatever. So I've been wanting to try that out. But Matt, you've kind of been fiddling around with streaming.
Yeah, I've been streaming actually quite a bit lately. More so just to kind of tinker with it, and that's no different with my keeping of the PlayStation Plus Premium. I just kind of want to try it out for a year because I had like a demo. Like they offered me like it was like $2 to upgrade for maybe 3 or 4 weeks. I had the middle tier of PlayStation Plus, which was also on a deal, and then they kind of like offered me this further upgrade. And then after that, it was like it's going to renew annually, and I was just like, I'll try it, but it wasn't just enough time. Like with the holidays and everything, it wasn't enough time. And I was like, you know what? I'll do it for 1 year. Cause like, even if I play 2 games that are like, close to the full retail price, I've saved my money. And then this might just be how I absorb a lot of my games through Game Pass and then PlayStation Plus. And that's super easy to budget for. And also like this year, I've also received as a gift, I received a Backbone controller for Christmas. Which is a wired controller for your phone, which is kind of like a game, like a I almost want to say a game vice, but that's literally another device. But it's like a controller that actually like mounts with your phone in there. And I was playing Call of Duty the other day. I found an app called XB Play, and it was a $10. It was a small trial, and then there was a $10 lifetime license. And I was really impressed during the trial. So I was like, whatever, $10. Like I'll try it. Like I'm playing with tech a little bit this year. And I wasn't doing as good as I normally do in COD, but I was able to play Call of Duty. Like if I was really we were all like going to hop on. There was a bunch of us and like, oh shoot, I have an update to do and I'm going to miss an hour. I could easily jump on and do that. It wouldn't be a problem. So I'm really impressed with streaming so far. What really sucks though is the PlayStation Plus streaming is also really good. So I've been streaming the First Resistance actually through the Classics collection.
Yeah.
And it's really good. Like, there's a little bit of latency here and there, but it's really good. But it's only on the PlayStation or on the PC. I haven't tried it on PC, but I can't stream it on a phone, which to me is just a weird oversight. Like, I just assumed it would be there, and I was like looking around, and I was like, oh, maybe Remote Play has it. Like, nope. I don't know.
Yeah.
It feels really weird to just not have that on mobile. It just feels like a missed opportunity.
And I don't know if you remember this. This was probably like close to 10 years ago, if not 10 years ago, with that PlayStation Now, what was called PlayStation Now at the time, was on Sony televisions.
Yeah. I mean, that's because of OnLive, like largely, right?
Yeah, but that's just like, what happened to that? I feel like with a streaming platform, you want it to be on everything. Xbox is doing that. Every device you own is an Xbox because you can stream on it.
Yeah.
Where's Sony's push into getting onto more platforms? Why don't they just have a browser where you can stream their games?
I think it's because there's a big difference there between like Microsoft's focus is clearly their services, where Sony is still a little bit on the hardware. Like, it really seems like Microsoft is trying to distance themselves from Xbox hardware, but maintain the Xbox brand, whereas Sony is clearly still doing like the same thing they've always done because it's always worked for them, right? Microsoft has said multiple times, it's clear we lost the most, or it wasn't Microsoft necessarily, but who was it that said they lost the most important generation? Where
Phil
people
Spencer.
started.
That was
Phil
Xbox
Spencer.
with Phil Spencer, yeah.
Yeah. So they lost the generation with the PS4 and the Xbox One, right? So it seems apparent that they're not focusing on hardware anymore.
Well, there's something like when you're mentioning hardware, like I just wanted to do a quick little check here on OnLive because I knew about the MicroConsole, but I also wasn't sure how you access it on other things. And OnLive actually had an app on computers. So this is very reminiscent of what Microsoft is doing. An app on computers through their launcher. They also had the optional hardware, the MicroConsole, of course, but they also had a mobile app for Android and iOS. And they even had a partnership with Google TV where they could actually access OnLive through compatible smart TVs. So what's weird is that like OnLive went the Microsoft route, or seemingly. Sony bought, like, kind of quote unquote almost bought out the company, or specifically bought out the patents, and then they sort of just, I don't know, kind of like shrunk that PlayStation Now experience away. It's very strange. It's like game streaming for Sony feels like such a side gig. It's just sort of like, like we'll toss it in. No, it's it's like, oh yeah, just buy our top tier, it'll be there. And it when a company does that, it feels like it's going to disappear.
But this is also interesting where like Game Pass is definitely heavily promoted and everyone talks about it a lot. I don't hear people talking about PlayStation Essential or Premium or whatever the hell it was called. Why isn't Sony doing like a marketing push trying to get people to be like, oh, there's this whole library of games I can get by subscribing? And they kind of muddied it up by having 3 tiers, which is kind of, it's less elegant, I guess. But Xbox has tiers too. But I don't know. It just feels a little more streamlined.
Well, like with that hardware talk, like, do you guys think that Sony maybe doesn't want to be introduced or affiliated with what Microsoft is doing? Like, do they? Because like Microsoft's thing right now is like everything's an Xbox. So, a PC, a tablet, a this or that. Use your browser, use any compatible apps, do whatever, get connected to our Xbox infrastructure and play via Game Pass Ultimate. Is Sony sort of like, we don't want to be like, buy, use a PC fine, but like you buy a PlayStation. Like, are they still very much like, yo, buy a PlayStation? What are you doing?
They definitely want you to buy a PlayStation. Yeah.
Because what's weird though is the Portal. Like, is anyone buying the Portal for the streaming? Because the streaming came to the Portal. It's in beta currently, but the game streaming without the console.
That's the most bizarre product I've ever seen.
Not for it, but I do have a friend who has one and he uses it quite a lot.
That's crazy.
Does he use it for the console or the cloud streaming?
Console, I think. Well, I mean, he did use it because he was like, he left his console at his house and then he came back here like 6 hours away to come visit, and he had it with him the whole time. So I guess he was using it for the streaming.
That's pretty good. Like, I mean, that's. I wonder I wonder if this is them like almost preparing for the mobile console. Because what I was just thinking of is if Microsoft is going to do like a Steam Deck equivalent, and then Sony, I think, is also rumored to do that as well, there would be storage limitations. So like streaming would become like a vital, I would imagine, a vital part of the use case of the thing.
But that would be such a hard thing to try to like account for with a mobile product. If your goal is for it to be a handheld, like a steady internet connection high enough for streaming it's a big ask, you know?
That's a fair point. I mean, there's like dead spots. Like I was in a friend's house in Brantford, and we were in the heart of the city, and there's no texting at his house. Period. There's no SMS. There's no cellular reception near the center of the city.
Wow.
It's like okay, and we weren't in the basement either. It's not like we were in like a dungeon or something. It's like we're on the main floor.
Yeah, you were in his sex dungeon.
You were in a sex dungeon. You were all strapped up.
Yeah, a Faraday cage was around it.
Around the entire sex dungeon?
And I wasn't able to send a text.
Hey guys, a little bit tied up at the moment. I'll message you when I get out.
Failed to send. Retry as SMS.
Yeah. All right. Thank you, Matt. That was great.
Oh, thank you, Ryan.
It's weird because like I remember that time period. You know what I mean? Like when all that OnLive stuff was happening when Sony first got in there. It was also remarkable to hear you'd say that the internet speeds in Canada were like 5 to 6 megabits per second in 2010. That's wild.
Like there definitely was other options. Like you could totally find them. But there was like I had 5 meg down and I was on par with a lot of my friends at the time.
Yeah. Well, I remember Netflix announcing that they were doing 4K streaming and they're like, you need 15 megabits per second down. I was like, whoa. You know, who has that? Yeah. So pretty crazy.
Listen,
times
in Canada,
back then.
our infrastructure is actually very complicated and very expensive to maintain. So that's why we need to charge you 3 times as much as American prices.
Yeah. All right, let's hop into the news stories for the week. First up, we're going to be talking about graphics cards because CES was this week in Las Vegas, the Consumer Electronics Show, where all these companies come and announce their next upcoming greatest gadgets. This is from The Verge. Nvidia announces next-gen RTX 5090 and RTX 5080 GPUs. However, they also announced 5070s and stuff like that. So, Nvidia CEO Jensen Huang revealed that the RTX 50 series GPUs during a CES keynote this evening, announcing a $1,999 RTX 5090, a $999 RTX 5080, a $749 RTX 5070 Ti, and a $549 5070. Nvidia's new RTX 5090 and 5080 GPUs will both be available on January 30th, with the RTX 5070 Ti and RTX 5070 to follow in February. You guys upgrading?
Yep.
I mean, I'm definitely not.
Tim? No?
I can't drop thousands of dollars on a new card. I don't even have my new CPU in my computer yet.
Yeah, your current CPU would definitely be bottlenecking that new card. And at this point, your motherboard actually can't probably.
Yeah, it's not even compatible with new.
And then you would need a new PSU because it probably don't have enough power.
I just bought a new PSU for the card I just bought like 6 months ago.
See, here's what I'm trying to do. It's a myth that PCs are upgradable. Yes, to an extent, but you're quickly pushed out. You can do it like once, and that's probably about it. You know?
I've also been a proponent of this for years. Like, you can upgrade, but like I think a lot of people think you can upgrade to the top of the line.
Well, or maybe it's more you can build a PC, like let's say like an entry level PC, and then like with 8 gigs of RAM or something like that, and it's like okay, sure, you could get 16 in like a couple years, you know, or if you bought like a low end CPU, you could get like you have like a AMD Ryzen 5, you can get a Ryzen 9 a few years later, you know, but you can't do generational jumps, really. If you wait too long, then you're just buying an old computer at that point, you know.
It's just the ship of Theseus. You just keep replacing each part until it's not the same computer every time.
That's what I do with my computer. My computer is entirely new except for the graphics card from my first PC that I built. But I can't upgrade anymore. I can't put the latest CPUs in there. I can't put the latest GPUs in there. I can't put the latest SSDs in there. The latest RAM doesn't go in
GPU
there.
What do you think you could put in there?
I think a 3080 could still work.
Okay, so 1 gen and 1 model up.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So it's like I upgraded within the same family of CPU too. It wasn't a generational jump. So if that's what you mean by upgrade your computer, sure, you can start by buying $1,000 or 500 US PC, and then you can upgrade within that same generation. That's what you can do, But otherwise, you got to build a whole new PC. The case will probably last you the longest.
I used to know a guy that would consider. I used to work with him, and he used to consider like his case as being the same computer, and he would consider it being like an upgrade. He'd be like, "Oh yeah, I upgraded the motherboard, and like I had to swap out the CPU and stuff." I'm like, you basically just bought a new damn computer. Here's
a good question though: if you had a car and you put a new engine in there, and you tore out all the insides and took all the seats and put in brand new seats, put a new engine in, is it not the same car?
I literally already brought up the ship of Theseus. We don't need to do this again.
I know, but this is a real life thing. Would the DMV still recognize it as the same licensed vehicle?
Probably.
Likely,
so is it just the body that makes it the car?
According to their records, yeah. Because it's what they can see.
Although what's weird though with that is, how
you're just licensing the body.
But when so I watch like a fair bit of like car restoration shows, and they'll have like, okay, this car is like too roached out. We'll need a donor car. So they'll find like an identical car that's in better shape, maybe from like California or something, so it's rotted or rusted less. And then they'll swap out a bunch of parts and kind of make like a Franken car, right, between the two. I'm curious, like, how far that goes. Because if it's like all your mechanics are top notch, has been looked after, but the body just was never oil sprayed and never preserved in any way, never washed or whatever, and it's totally roached out, but we'll change the whole body, but the frame and everything's fine. Like,
it's like the opposite of my first car. But the outside, the body was immaculate. It was still pristine. The engine was operating at like 60% efficiency.
God.
So there's some more information on these new cards here. What do I care about here? Well, obviously, I mean, none of us are probably gonna get the 5090. Well, you guys aren't getting a new card anyway, but the 5090 is obviously the big top dog graphics card. The Founders Edition will be a 2-slot GPU, and it will be capable of fitting inside small form factor PCs. A big departure from the size of the RTX 4090.
Yeah, seriously.
The 4090 was a massive card.
They're monsters, yeah.
And so that the fact that they got a better card in that 2-slot is kind of ridiculous. The RTX 5090 has 32 gigabytes of DDR7, a memory bandwidth of 1,792 gigabytes per second, and a massive 21,760 CUDA cores. Because you guys all know what that is, right? You guys are all excited with the CUDA cores.
Woo!
My cat just went nuts and took off. Okay.
My cat just went nuts about CUDA cores.
Yeah, CUDA cores. I'm out of here.
But Tim, you have a 3080. Matt, you have a 4080. The RTX 5080 is designed to be twice as fast as the RTX 4080 and will include 16 gigabytes, although that is the same as the previous gen, I believe.
It's like 8 times as fast as my card.
And then a bunch of other stats, blah, 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 blah. Only 360 watts for that 5080, although they're recommending an 850 watt power supply.
Oh, so I'm golden. Nice.
So I think the 5080 is usually the one that's like people strive for. At least I think it is. It's like the crazy PC guys, they go for the 5090s or 4090s. And then you have like the high-end gamers go for like the 80s
series, yeah.
The 80s are kind of like the flagship usually, right? And then the 70s is like if you're budget conscious or you don't game much or, something like that.
Yeah. Now, speaking of the 5070s, thank you, Matt, for that segue. This one is what kind of raised some eyebrows because they announced a 5070 for $549 US and claimed on stage that the RTX 5070 will deliver RTX 4090 performance. Now, this obviously raised eyebrows, and the speculation is it has more to do with DLSS 4 improvements rather than actual raw performance, because that would be nuts for them to offer a card that is currently $2,000 or whatever it is and say this $549 card can replace it. That's pretty wild.
Yeah.
But that actually raised a question, and Matt, we kind of talked about it. Like, you're familiar with DLSS, right, Tim?
Yeah. Yep.
Do you care where the performance is coming from? Do you care that it's AI driven and it's creating fake frames, quote unquote fake frames, or do you just care about the end result?
I'm sure if you understand the technicality behind it, maybe you think that there are like priorities that need to be considered. or certain things that need to be prioritized. Rather, maybe I meant to say.
Mhm.
But for like 99% of the population, I'm sure they would say the end result's the only thing that really matters.
Yeah.
As long as it's not like making my computer, burn itself out, like burning the candle at both ends to get better performance, but it's having the lifetime of the parts,
Mm-hmm.
As long as it's sustainable, I'm sure people are like, yeah, let's do it that way.
Matt, what are your thoughts?
I think I mentioned this last week, and like I'm kind of on Tim's side where it's like if I suddenly learned that how we went from say 720p to 1080p was actually that the CPU was like doing something internally, machine learning or something, and was up-resing it to 1080p, and I learned that was the way that we've always done 1080p. I'm not going to be like, this is stupid, like we want just raw 1080p. It's kind of like that is raw 1080p. So like with DLSS, I mean, if they had never come up with DLSS and they came up instead with like a different chip on there that like has a faster cache or something, and that's the key to better graphics, and the same with the DLSS is, I don't know if we would be like, man, does it make sense to be happy about this? Like, why are we using DLSS as a crutch, as some people would say? But it's like, maybe DLSS is how we're going to do stuff. Like this may be the innovation that moves us forward.
Yeah, I just don't see in that situation like why it's a crutch.
Yeah, I agree.
I think it has to do with, now everything's kind of fake when it comes to digital content. So it's like
that's correct. Yeah,
the graphics that you're seeing from raw performance is still being generated by the graphics card, and just because you have AI on there inserting additional frames using the data from that graphics card produced image, you can't really say it's a fake frame. It's just another frame.
It's another computer generated frame in amongst a bunch of computer generated frames.
Yeah, this isn't like AI making art, which people contest.
No, these frames are bespoke.
Yeah,
these are handcrafted. They are good old down home, farm fresh, farm to table, free range organic, hand raised.
And
frames.
I've already seen the results. It's extended how long I could have my 2080 graphics card. I could not have played. Well, I could have played it, Remnant, with you guys at the resolutions and quality I did without DLSS. Because when I turned that off, the game looked horrible and it ran like poop. And you turn it on and it's like, oh, I'm running at 60 FPS and everything looks nice.
Yeah,
and
just hit this magic button.
A pleasant experience with you guys,
Yeah,
and it's your card that's capable of running that DLSS. Like this isn't like DLSS is running in the cloud and is like streaming the frames in quickly to like help the shortcomings of your GPU. Like that's just not the case. Like DLSS, the AI tech is running on your card. Yeah. So therefore, this new DLSS 4, I'm pretty sure you can't run it at all, right, Ryan? Like you can't.
No,
so like
no.
that there proves that even the people that are like, I want my hardware to have the raw power, it does. It's literally doing it.
It's just raw AI power now.
It's raw AI power. Like what? Yeah. Why do you want? Because if you think about it, like DLSS or like the old way of doing things, like that just makes the GPU or CPU like work super hard, generates a bunch of heat. Right? It wastes a bunch of electricity, like in terms of, especially if we're trying to make things mobile. And whereas I don't know how efficient DLSS is, I wouldn't be surprised if it's more efficient because, I mean, it's not like your GPU is struggling to run the DLSS that's also keeping it alive. Like that's a ridiculous, like, catch-22, right? So to me, I don't know what people are upset about.
No, you don't understand. I need it to all be brute forced and every frame has to be generated without DLSS because I bought this more expensive card because I wanted to make other people feel inferior to me.
I have a 5090, bros. What's going on? I have a pre-order in.
Yeah, I don't need a 5090 because I got my 3080 that can use DLSS to get the same performance. Like,
it probably is more efficient because it's piggybacking off of what the graphics card is making. It's not generating these frames out of thin air. It's looking at the previous frame and predicting what the next frame would be. Right? That's what the AI functionality is. So it still needs the raw power to some extent. So I would imagine it's more efficient because it's not doing the actual generating of the original frame.
Well, I actually just did a quick quick ChatGPT search, so I haven't exactly like looked into this fully.
You're using AI to figure out AI?
You're damn right. And it says here, DLSS is generally more power efficient than traditional GPU rendering at native resolution. That's because of lower resolution rendering. DLSS renders the game internally at a lower resolution, like 1080p, and then it uses AI to upscale it to something like a 4K. Rendering it at that lower resolution requires less computational power and energy than rendering the target resolution natively. And there's a bunch more information here, but it says here, like one thing that's interesting is there's dynamic energy savings. So with DLSS, the GPU can achieve similar or better visual quality while consuming less energy because it avoids the more intensive task of full resolution rendering. So for laptops, this can result in longer battery life during gaming sessions. And actually, Ryan, you and I were discussing, I think this was off air randomly, you and I were discussing how like Windows slash I guess x86 CPUs and that they still have this problem where like the other day I like closed my laptop and you just hear the fans just like, oh, that's it, like 100%, like we went to sleep.
Yeah.
Turn her on, boys, and like fucking firing her off. There's heat blowing out the side, and this has been a problem for like 10 or 15 years, and I've had multiple different laptops from different manufacturers as well, running different versions of Windows, and they've all done this. Like, oh, open the browser up. This is a thing that can run a gaming laptop that can run the best games. We're opening the browser, boys, and just like turn that fan on, you know, and it's just like Jesus.
My laptop used to do the same, yeah.
Like, it's just, I don't know whether it's a Windows thing or an x86 thing, but the point is, like, anything that we can do to get the heat down. I mean, there's a reason why Windows wants to go or is going to the Copilot Plus stuff, which is ARM. There's a reason why they go there, because ARM runs not as hot. Like, anything we can do to get energy savings from mobile stuff or heat savings so we don't have to have, like, a freaking V8 engine attached to our friggin' CPUs in our computer sounds pretty good to me.
Yeah. All right, well, I'm actually pretty excited because I think I am going to be upgrading my computer this year, and obviously the graphics card is a big part of that. I'm already parting out cases and things like that, and I'm eyeballing that 5080, baby.
I'm surprised you're not going 90, to be honest.
That's way too much. That's 2000 American. You know, that's.
Well, are you gonna do it like right away? Like you wouldn't wait a little bit, or like right when these things drop? I mean.
I do like NZXT's like hardware and stuff. So their motherboard for AMD chips is not out yet. So I'm gonna have to wait for that thing to come out first, you know. But the AMD chips are out. The case I want is out, you know. And then the graphics card's coming out this end of this month, I think, right? So, and I want the Founders Edition. I don't want some random one. What do I have right now? Asus? Yeah. I like the Founders ones. I just like the look of them better. And I mean, it's Nvidia making it. Like, wouldn't they know how to properly cool it and whatever? But maybe the other guys do more. I don't know, you know?
Well, Nvidia might be like, this is a guess. Nvidia might be building it to spec, which is good. And then other people might be overzealous, but they could be underzealous too. Who knows?
Well, one of the things they showed off was that it has like two fans that blow right through the whole card, which I guess is different from the older ones. Now, I haven't actually seen these things to remember what they look like, but yours has a fan on either side and on opposite ends.
That's correct.
Right? And one's just kind of, I don't know where it's blowing to. At the back? I don't know.
What do you mean blowing out the back?
Like the one that's under the part that's covered.
Yeah.
That air is being sucked in and then sent where?
Likely, again, this is a guess. Like, is one in and one out?
See, I don't know. I'm not.
So, like, it would create a channel, I would imagine. They would, like, fire, like, fresh air in the bottom, out the top. Like, more air out the top.
This is the Founders Edition with just two double flow through fans, a 3D vapor chamber, and a 3D vapor chamber. So, I don't know. But anyway, it looks cool. I like it.
I love these talks about all these cooling systems, and then at the end of the day, it's like, does it cool it enough? Yeah. All right.
That's all I want. Yeah, I'm not overclocking this stuff either. So. Let's move on here. Another announcement from CES. SteamOS is coming to other handhelds soon. As soon as this April, apparently. It's also from The Verge. SteamOS was always supposed to be bigger than Valve's on Steam Deck, and in 2025 is the year it finally expands. Not only will Lenovo ship the first third-party SteamOS handheld this May, Valve has now revealed that it will let you install a working copy of SteamOS on other handhelds even sooner than that. Pierre-Luc Griffiths? Great. What is that, Matt? Griffey?
I was listening to you. Wasn't reading, so I'm not sure. Oh, Pierre-Loup Griffey.
You guys took the French. I don't know.
I believe it's Pierre-Loup Griffey. I have grade 9 French from over 10 years. Well, over 10 years ago, so it's not.
Well, I have 0 French, Matt. So
I think it's Pierre-Loup Griffey.
Pierre-Loup Griffey, one of the lead designers on the Steam Deck and SteamOS, told The Verge a beta for other handhelds is slated to ship after March sometime, and that you might discover the OS just starts working properly after that happens. Griffey and his co-designer Lawrence Yang would not confirm which handhelds might just start working. Though there are some obvious candidates, the company confirmed to us in August that it had been adding support for the Asus ROG Ally controls. My quick take is I think this makes me more interested in actually buying a third-party device, knowing that it has SteamOS support. You guys both have Steam Decks, right? Tim, you got a Steam Deck?
Yep.
Any interest in looking at other options?
I mean, not until this one stops working, basically.
Sure.
Like, I have no reason to change it out when it's perfectly fine.
Mm-hmm.
It suits my use case for it.
I don't know if it's like a grass is always greener thing, but the only thing I kind of miss is I wouldn't mind having Windows at my disposal. And so it's interesting, Ryan, to hear you say, like, you know, SteamOS is the thing that's kind of drawing you in. SteamOS is very, very good. Like, I mean, I have no intention of replacing the Steam Deck until the same thing, kind of like Tim said, until the thing stops working or whatever. And I'm really enjoying it. But it's just sort of like, if I were to think of like, what's this thing missing? It's like, well, I could have, you know, my Xbox library. I could have my other libraries natively. Yes, I know there's other apps that allow you to install Epic Games and stuff. And I do have BattleNet on there. I get it. But just like natively, like with the click of a button, just have them on there. That would be nice. And not game streaming either. I mean, like literally the games installed. So like something like a ROG Ally sounds cool. However, having, I mean, very limited use of the ROG Ally at a couple of public showings, Windows is not as good as SteamOS with the controls. Like Windows, you know, isn't like fully aware it's on a ROG Ally. Like it's not like ROG Ally. Yeah, man, here's a new UI for you. Like that's not how Windows works. So it's definitely a bit clunky in that way for sure, which like kind of sucks. So like SteamOS is like a very figured out place to be. Like I think that like the controls are intuitive and everything's like pretty good on there. There's like, you know, the odd quirk like anything, but the Steam Deck is like a very, very good device.
I mean, we had that one experience with that. What was that, Matt? The Lenovo Legion Go?
Oh, the first version of the Lenovo Legion Go. That's right.
And that thing running Windows was a disaster.
It's
running a raw version of Windows. It's not a specialized handheld gaming device Windows. And so like you were just pulling up like Word and stuff and you had the Windows desktop on the screen. It was just like, it was the most bizarre thing to think that would be a good experience. I would almost just launch the Xbox app in full screen and just use my my Lenovo like that, you know?
You know what's crazy too is the Steam Deck, it compensates for that as well. Like I tinker with my Steam Deck a lot more than I play games on it. I kind of like, you know, hack Windows apps on there and stuff like that. It's kind of like nerded out with it. And I use the desktop mode a fair bit. And I don't have like a mini keyboard connected to it like many people recommend. I just use the control, like the native controls and the touchpads and the triggers. And I think there's a few other controls that are designed for the desktop interface of SteamOS that work great with the Steam Deck controls. And it's cool to see how the Steam Deck, who like is a device that is like totally controller friendly, like is totally designed for that, specifically in the SteamOS mode without the not the desktop mode, but the other kind of controller mode, big picture mode, if you will. It's cool to see how they still have those touchpads, and that's like, hey, just in case you needed a mouse touchpad, we got this ready for you. That's what it feels like. Yeah. And then there's these other like, you know, the ROG Ally and stuff where it's like, we don't have that. Here's Windows. Like what?
One thing I'm kind of concerned about, although I'm not really concerned, is like Windows is taking a while to get their version of some sort of mobile handheld OS going. They've talked about it, how they're trying to. Actually, I think that might be our third story. Yeah, so we might as well just combine it into this one. Microsoft's combining the best of Xbox and Windows together. But it's like if SteamOS gets a handhold, you know, Is Windows going to have a fighting chance at all, or is it just going to be on their own Xbox handheld device?
Well, what's really frustrating is there's a lot of things in Windows that aren't complete, I would say. Like the very fact that they're like, we wanted a new, like a new context menu for when you right click on files and things like that. But if you want the old one, there's like the show more options, and then it shows the old one. And some options, whether this is the app dev's problem or Windows' problem, only show up in the old one. And it's like, it's probably, I'd imagine, it's likely partially to blame on Windows, likely to blame on some app devs. But it's sort of like, I think if I want a quick share, like I'll use like quick share between my computer and my phone. And I use Google Quick, so it's Google Quick Share on the computer, and then it's like Samsung Quick Share on the phone, and they work together. But it's like I can right click, like let's say an image on my desktop, and I want to like quick share that. I have to use the old menu, and quick share like is a newer app, and it's just sort of like we're going back to the legacy fucking interface. Sorry to say this, I don't mind the control panel. Why is the control panel here? Like if you have a new settings menu, get the goddamn control panel out of here.
Well, one thing I've heard is like they keep it around for like the old school guys who are still using it to tinker, and that's what they're used to. And like they have to like baby these people into the new platform, Don't take away those things. Like that's not what I'm trying to say. Do not take away the options the control panel offers. Put them in the new system.
Put them in the new damn UI and have an advanced mode where if you think 99% of users aren't going to touch this stuff, hide it behind a toggle switch and just say, yo, this is for advanced users. You an advanced user? Yeah. All right, cool. And then show it.
Well, I think it's funny too, because like they're fine with forcing you to get rid of Windows 10 because they're eventually forcing people out of that platform, which means you have to all now use Windows 11. But it's like, but then they don't want to take away control panel because people still use it. Why not just rip the Band-Aid off? That's what Apple does. Apple don't care what you say, but about their old system, they replace it.
It's foolish. Like, I mean, you and I were having a conversation about Copilot, and one of my complaints was Copilot had all these different modes where they had the Copilot that was in Microsoft Edge, the browser. I'm talking about desktop versions. Microsoft Edge, the browser, had like a compose mode where you could say like, yo, compose me an email in a professional tone at this length, and you could tell it what to do. And you could do a whole bunch of different, options in there. That compose mode was only available there. If you had, and then Copilot was integrated with the system. So I believe it was WinC was the keyboard shortcut, and it was integrated into this like little pull-out side panel drawer on the right-hand side. They decided, no, we're going to make it an app. Then they commit to that, whatever, blah, blah, blah. And then Copilot Plus PCs come out, and they're like, all right, that's it. We're not going to do that anymore. We're going to have like a standalone app. At some point during the line, I think it might have been the web version, not the browser version that's built into the browser. I'm talking about like the web version when you go to the website had like GPTs for like fitness and some other things. Those get disappeared. Then they're like, oh, by the way, the Copilot button, which is on Copilot Plus PCs, gets, you can change it to whatever you want. And it's sort of like, you guys are doubling down on Copilot, but then you're also being like super lax with it. It's like, you had it integrated with the system. Like, to me, it was like so good. And it's like, why are you being so flip-floppy with this? It's like, oh no, just make it an app, make it whatever. And it's like, I thought it was supposed to be this integral thing. It's like, it's kind of like Microsoft in a nutshell a little bit, where I feel like they're like, we're all about gaming. So we're going to do 5 updates, need 10, and we'll do the other 10 in like over a 7-year period, or the other 5 in over a 7-year period. It's like, Jesus, guys, like, what are you doing here?
Well, I've always found it interesting that Windows or Microsoft does not make a Windows mobile phone with a Windows OS. They tried back in the day, and they failed. But it's like, now are they going to miss the boat here too? Are they going to miss getting Windows onto a mobile gaming handhelds, which seem to be taking off, and we were seeing new competitors every single day? Now, I guess all of them run Windows currently, other than the Steam Deck. But now that SteamOS is going to be launching on any of these ones, is Microsoft going to miss an opportunity to have their OS on another platform?
And as Proton and Wine and other emulation softwares get better, Microsoft might lose market share kind of almost sneakily to that stuff.
Yeah.
As people just like figure out how to easily install things on the Steam Deck that's normally Windows facing. It's ultimately, to me, it's frustrating to see. Like, Tim, you're still on Windows 10, right?
Yeah.
And like, do you have any like intention to change? Like, are you gonna like? I don't know if they're bugging you with pop-ups or anything.
I mean, I get the pop-ups, but I'm not looking forward to like changing it, honestly.
Well, because they're dropping security support, though, aren't they?
Something like that, yeah, in October of this year.
So they're trying to force you to shift over.
Yeah. But I mean, I have never upgraded my operating system on any computer I've ever used.
Oh, really?
Wow. The only time I've ever changed operating system was getting a whole new computer.
But you run your regular updates, right?
Yeah, of course, yeah.
Okay. For security and then like patches and stuff, you definitely should.
Man, I wasn't like that on Windows 7, let me tell you that.
And I'll just kind of talk quickly about like what Microsoft is doing for their gaming handheld vision. Xbox chief Phil Spencer has been dropping hints about an Xbox handheld for months. But what about Windows handheld gaming PCs? Jason Ronald, Microsoft's VP of Next Generation, tells The Verge that we should expect to see the Windows handheld gaming experience change within the calendar year. Ronald was a roundtable panelist this evening at an AMD and Lenovo event titled The Future of Gaming Handhelds, which was mostly a coming out party for Lenovo's new Legion Go S. But he did hint on stage that Microsoft plans to bring the Xbox experience to Windows PCs, rather than the other way around, and expanded on that considerably after we caught up with him later. He said, quote, "We've been really innovating for a long time in the console space, and as we partner across the industry, it's really about how do we bring those innovations that we've incubated and developed in the console space and bring them to PC and bring them to the handheld gaming space." So yeah, I mean, like, they're obviously working on something. I just think they should get it out sooner rather than later. But you want to make sure it's good. Don't rush it out, I guess.
I mean, I will say this: like, I adopted Windows 8 on a tablet really early. I got a device called the Dell Venue. I think it's called the Dell Venue 8. And I was super excited for Windows on a tablet. I thought this is going to be the way I'm going to have tablets moving forward, because I had an iPad and I had a couple of Android tablets, and I think it was an iPad mini, and like they were kind of getting old at the time. And so I was like, this is going to be my way forward. Like, why not just like have Windows 8 on the computer? It has notifications and stuff. It had the messaging app, which was like a message conglomerate, actually, if anyone remembers that. And I was like, this is the way forward. Like, this is this thing. And holy frick was the tablet interface for Windows 8 bad. Like, the app selector with the live tiles was fine. And then it would like boot up a desktop app. And it's like, am I supposed to like activate this with my finger when it needs the precision of a cursor? Like, this is like, what the fuck? The fuck am I using? Like, this is awful. Such a, or like, I remember I had like stuff running in the background, which would normally show up on the taskbar, but I didn't have a taskbar because I was in tablet mode. And I was like, wait, where the hell did that app go? And I had a few apps that would like keep, I can't remember if they were like actually up, like opening new versions, or they were like interrupting the old one. So it would like stop what was happening in the background. Like, there was interfering with it though. Cause I'd be like, oh, I don't know if this app is open. And then I would like interfere with what it was doing. And it's like, Christ. Or I had like sound playing from an app. I couldn't find the damn app. Nightmare. Like, just, I ended up just using the touch screen in desktop mode because it was so fucking frustrating.
What would be nice about a Windows on a handheld? I would hope that it's not just the Xbox OS on a handheld, because the perfect scenario would be it kind of looks like Xbox, but it's actually more like Windows, where I can download Epic Game Store or the Ubisoft app or even Steam itself and run it on the handheld. That's what I would prefer. I don't just want an Xbox experience. I just more want a Windows mobile handheld experience.
Well, let me ask you this. So like, and this is a question for both of you guys. Like, do you think that Windows would, like, from this news, it sounds like they're melding the two, meaning they're doing more than just an app.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas to me, I think this would be totally fine as an app. Like, it would be totally reasonable to have like a ROG Ally or, a Microsoft made handheld gaming PC, and you hit that Xbox button, or you hit like a certain button on the ROG Ally, and it always opens like the big picture mode of whatever.
Yeah. And
then it just like, that's just an app, and then you can go through. Now I realize that does exist for the ROG Ally. There's some sort of ROG Ally app, I believe. I was messing around with this in a public setting. Who knows what people have installed on it. But like, to me, it's like a lower hanging fruit for Windows at the very least to get started would just be to do that. Because I did that with my my Backbone. I didn't want to pay the friggin' subscription charge for the Backbone app to stream games. So I was like, the heck with this. So I just like went and found that other guy, had a lifetime license, bought it, and I use that now. And I have his app launch in my own launcher. So when I'm about to like hook up my Backbone, I just like go in and, you know, set turn that app on, so now it's like in like a big picture mode with all my games, and then I slap on my controller and I'm off to the races.
I was actually just going to bring up the Backbone because it kind of is the solution I was talking about, where it has its own launcher, but within that launcher you can launch everything you have on your phone. And I mean, I understand you have to subscribe to like launch some of the streaming services or whatever, but otherwise it's like I see all my games in there that are compatible with Backbone. I see the PS Remote Play app. So that's what I would want from whatever Microsoft's working on.
And I feel like they're going to try to make it more integrated than ever. Like I feel as though they're not like at the end of the day, like SteamOS is very, very good, and the big picture mode or the default Steam mode, whatever you want to call it, on the Steam Deck is like really, really good, and it's very console like. But you can, you know, in a couple of clicks, get right back to a desktop, get right to a Linux desktop. Mm-hmm. And honestly, like Windows could do the same damn thing. You know, you don't need to have, you know, oh, we need to remove the desktop or, you know, whatever it is that I think they're trying to do. You don't need that. You could just have like an app that basically runs as a kiosk app.
Yeah.
Like that would be fine. That's totally fine. And honestly, like if I would almost wonder if that would be good for remote streaming from a computer, because if you were on a TV and you remote streamed, it would like, you know, kill all the stuff on the desktop and whatever. And then be like, oh, better launch in, you know, big quote unquote big picture mode or whatever, and kind of in a gaming mode and get the computer ready to run a game remotely.
Mm-hmm. All right. Well, that's it for the stories for the week. I'm going to move on to what we're playing. Tim? Put you on the spot.
Yeah, no, it's the same as before. It's lots of classic WoW. But I did go back to Dragon's Dogma 2 for one session.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Which is still fantastic. I didn't realize how close I was to the like end air quotes of the story. I hit the point where like I did the like, again, air quotes, like final boss fight. I guess for like one ending that you can do, like we saw credits, it went back to the main menu. I could hit like restart and then it would have started New Game Plus kind of thing. But then I went back to the final sequence again because I was like, what happens if you load your last save? And there's a different thing you can do right before the last boss fight that triggers like an alternate outcome. And then you are given another choice. It's like, do you want to do you want to see the ending you just saw, or do you want to like not do that? So then I said no. And then it basically takes you to this like other version of the, how can I say this without like spoiling anything? It's not a new game, but it takes you to basically like an alternate ending path kind of thing. And it kind of recontextualizes the entire game, I guess I can say. I'm trying to think of how to say this without like spoiling anything. So that's really cool because it's like you could absolutely just do this one ending and then you could be like, okay, yeah, that was like it. But then if you do the other thing, it's like, oh, so there's actually a lot more content that I didn't even realize. Okay, that's crazy. So I've just kind of started that. But aside from that, again, like I said on stream, mostly classic WoW. I almost died last night because when I'm just playing in my own time. It's never on stream. There's never like a scare on stream. It's always in my own time when I'm playing. I was like going along this path, and then I saw that there was a I'm doing one of my skills is herbalism on this character, so I'm collecting herbs to make like potions with alchemy. And so I see this herb off the side of the path. I'm like, okay, I should go get that. And I go down to this like pond where it is, and I get it. And then I'm like, okay, how do I get back to the path? And I can't get back to the path because there's like the hills around the pond are too steep. So I'm trying to figure out how I can like jump back up these walls to try to get back to where I was. And I can't really. So I'm like, okay, so where do I go? And this pond has like some rocks that go over a waterfall to like another lower pond. And so I'm like, okay, I guess I have to go down there. So I jump off and you fall a little bit and I land in the water. And then I'm standing on this like secondary ledge on the side of this like sheer cliff, essentially, in this secondary waterfall pond going, okay, well now where do I go? Because now I'm halfway up a cliff and I can't reach like any of the other parts of the other cliffs off to the side because it's too far away. So I'm like, again, I guess I just have to like jump off and go down to the water again. And like, to be fair, at this point, I wasn't really like fully thinking about it. I was like, I guess I just have to jump. So I jumped without really looking where I was going. And this secondary pond had like a waterfall off to the left side, a waterfall off to the right side, and then a spot in the stand, a spot in the middle where you could stand. And I was kind of standing there, and then I just kind of like looked left, looked right, and jumped because I was like, oh, there's water below me. But I didn't jump. You couldn't jump far enough to reach the water from that point. So I just kind of started falling, and I looked down, and about halfway through the fall, I had the realization where I was like, oh, I'm going to land on ground. I'm not going to hit water. And I'm still falling and falling. And I kind of have this moment where I'm like, I don't have anything on me right now that can like slow my fall, make me invulnerable to damage, anything to like cancel fall damage or reset or anything like that. And I kind of really quickly went through like all the stages of grief because I was just like, I like really quickly hit the acceptance point. I was like, I guess this is it. This is how I die. Like I fucked up. I had a brief, lapse of judgment, and this is it. And then I hit the ground, and I took 98% damage from the fall and survived with a sliver of health. And I was like, kind of just sitting there for a moment, like I'm glad I'm not dead, but god damn it, I'm so mad at myself. Like if I had just jumped to either the left or the right, then I would have been fine.
How long was this fall if you went through all the
I know, right? Well, it felt like the longest fall I've ever had in my life in a video game, but it was in reality probably like, I bet it wasn't even 5 seconds.
and then you were safe, like, because you're saying you're trying to get out of a steep area, and it kind of sounds like you went steeper.
Yeah, like jumped off of a high up area to a lower area that was still high up. And then I jumped off again, hoping, and I was kind of annoyed originally because I was like, man, I just wanted to get this stupid herb. And now I'm like in a situation where the only way to get back to where I was is to basically go all the way back down this mountain, down to the water, swim up this river, go to the beach, and then start going back up the mountain again, where there's all these like switchback like paths and stuff. And that was to start like what I was more annoyed by. I was like, I can't believe that they put this thing here for you to collect, and you can't get back to the path from this spot. It's almost like this herb was put here as like bait. Of course, it doesn't matter if you're not on like a hardcore server, right? But
is that herb like vital to you at all? Like,
no, it's all optional stuff, right? You use the herbs to make potions with alchemy, and the potions are like helpful to have because they give you buffs for like a half hour to boost your stats, or you can make your own healing potions. Like in hardcore, that's pretty helpful. Whereas you otherwise have to either like just get random drops for potions or like buy them. So, you always want to have like a bunch of consumables on you in case you get into a sticky situation, right? And you're like, oh, I should probably, heal back up in this fight because it's looking like I'm getting close to low health.
Because when you first mentioned the herb, I was thinking like you were going to get jumped. I was thinking it was going to be like, the camera angle of like somebody parting the bushes, and you're just like kind of like walking toward the herb. It's like, hey, I know that son of a bitch. And like they all come running out of the bushes and
like, no, yeah, there weren't a bunch of NPCs. That's what happened to my first character who died. He was only like level 14, and I kind of screwed up. It was my own fault. I was trying to like get a new companion pet for my hunter in like an area where the enemies there were going to be higher level than the thing I was trying to tame. And so I was trying to like level it up, and then I was in a field where there were a bunch of enemies who respawn, and they all aggroed on you like super aggressively. And I was already like hurting from a fight beforehand, and then everything respawned, and so I was at like half health, and I just got burned down really quick, which sucked. But the higher level you get, it almost feels like the kind of the safer you are against like enemies specifically, but the more likely you are to have something like fall damage or drowning, or just some time when you have some lapse in judgment really quick is what's going to kill you rather than like enemies. Because if you get to the higher levels like the 40s, 50s, you've kind of done it enough where you know what best practices for staying safe fighting enemies. But it's those little moments where you're just not paying attention enough that is like, well, there it is, we're done.
What's the level of your character? I don't know if you said that. What's the level of your current character? Because you died at 14 the first time.
Yeah. So my new like character that I played the most, that is the furthest along, is 46 now. I just hit 46.
And in classic, it's max 60?
Yeah.
You think
correct.
you said last week?
Yeah.
Okay. Are you gonna like? Is that it? Like, is it like that's the crown? You hit 60, it's like, all right, character complete.
60 is like you beat the game, basically, like you beat hardcore. You can definitely like do dungeons and raids and stuff when you're level 60. I've seen people do it, and it's crazy to me. Having a max level character and then doing like the hardest content in the game on a hardcore server is wild to me. But I guess at that point, it's like, what else do you do, right? It's like I either have this character just sit and I never play them again, or I at least try to do the raid, and if I die, I die, and there you go. I'd rather, if I was playing a character in a hardcore realm and I was going to die, I would much rather die at max level when you can't get any higher level than 60. And I'd much rather die doing a raid where it's like you're fighting the hardest content in the game and that's it, versus like you have some stupid lapse in judgment where you fall off a cliff and die from fall damage at like 45, right?
Because I was actually going to ask, like, you're playing with a group of people on hardcore. Like, are you guys like, I don't know, not necessarily racing, but are you trying to be like, we got to 60? Like, is there a goal at the end of this, or is it just like, let's just play, but it's hardcore?
Yeah, I mean, like, not that we're racing necessarily, but like I do have a group of people that we play together sometimes, but mostly I have a couple different characters at different like levels, different stages of the game, because partially because I've played like the one character the most, but then I'm also wanting to try out playing different classes that I didn't play before in the game. But then it's also helpful for when like if somebody else dies and then they have to remake their characters, and then once they get back to like level 10 or whatever, I'm like, okay, great, I have a level 10 character. I can go onto that character and we can play together, versus me being like, well, now I got to wait until you guys catch up to level 40 again for us to play together, right?
Right.
Like, which is going to take a long time.
Can you rush them? Is that a thing?
You can. Like, you can help power level them through quests and stuff. But in the lower levels, doing like the grinding to fight enemies and get experience like is much more valuable for leveling than it is when you're like in the 40s. Like, you have to grind and grind and grind if you want to get any reasonable amount of experience from fighting enemies, versus turning in quests. Like, turning in quests is the vast majority of your experience leveling up, so you want to do that part as fast as possible. But when you're lower level, just fighting enemies is more like useful. But when you're grouped up with somebody who's a much higher level than you, it completely like gimps your experience. Like, enemies that you would normally get like 100 from, if you're playing with somebody who's like 10 or 20 levels higher than you, you'll get like a tenth of the normal experience.
So like you have to kind of like as the higher level guy, you more or less would only do that to power level then.
You would only do it to like help them do quest objectives and help them turn stuff in faster.
Right.
It's, I guess the mechanic is there because they don't want somebody to be like level 5 and they group up with a 60, and then the 60 takes them to like a level 50 zone and just starts burning down level 50 mobs, and then the level 1 character is getting full experience from level 50 mobs, which would be like levels like crazy, right?
Right. Because I come from the world of Guild Wars, like the first one, where like they just let you do that. So like that was our power level, was like someone would join, everything was instant. So every time like somebody went through like a certain checkpoint, everyone would just like appear on the other side of that checkpoint, and then like you would just do the cave, the mountain trolls. I remember run up to the cave, kill all the trolls, and like power level whoever it was that was with you.
The level cap in Guild Wars is 20 though, right?
Oh, wow.
I want to say that's right. Yeah, 20. I think it might be 30 with the expansions, but yeah, I think it was 20 by default.
Yeah. So it's kind of like you definitely like can hit the level cap faster in Guild Wars than you would in WoW, for example.
Yeah, like I definitely never spent like as much time leveling. Like I probably had the same amount of hours as some people in like say high school on like characters, if we were sort of like comparing WoW to Guild Wars, but I was doing like end game activity like for a lot longer just because of the nature of Guild Wars.
Yeah. Yep.
Man, I still don't know why you're doing hardcore. It gives me a headache.
Honestly, like I probably wouldn't be playing Classic at all if it wasn't for hardcore. Like it's basically like a solved game. So the just that little simple twist of like, if you ever die, that's it, your character's gone, adds a whole new dynamic to playing it. You really do feel like you have to pay a lot more attention and like think about every encounter a lot more thoughtfully than just mindlessly, oh, we'll go in, if I die, whatever, okay, I can't do it, I'll like go and do something else. Like every encounter you have to be a lot more considerate of, and like be afraid of particular mobs and stuff like that, or even certain caves. Like certain caves are notorious for being quite hard, and like in the base game, the original game, they're just like, okay, whatever. It's like there's a bunch of enemies in there and they respawn kind of fast, so you need to kind of try to take the enemies out before they respawn. But if you die, it's no big deal. You just run back in, you try again. But in hardcore, that becomes like a notorious cave now, because it's like if you go in and you don't have enough resources, or you go in alone without a group, you're going to get overwhelmed and you're probably going to die. And that does happen inevitably to some people. And then they sort of get like a reputation of, oh, this is one of the most dangerous caves in the game. Oh, there's this NPC in this one area that kills a lot of low level players because they are just trying to do this quest where you go into this house and take this book off of a shelf, but there's a guy in there who's like waiting, and he's really aggressive and he's a high level for that area and does a lot of damage, and people aren't necessarily like ready for him, and so they get ganked. And then the death logs for the entire server are just full of, this person died to this NPC, this NPC, this NPC, this NPC.
Oh.
And he's killing lots of low level characters because people either don't know, or they don't they think, oh, I can do this, and then they get overconfident and they die. So it's like its own culture, basically. It's an entirely different, like different parts of the game have entirely different reputations from what they would have in just vanilla classic. That, and then the fact that I have like a group of friends who I can like semi regularly play with is the other major like motivator. Obviously, like when you're playing an MMO, the entire point of it is the fact that it's multiplayer. And so if you don't have that, obviously the game is not nearly as fun. But if a bunch of other people are just as into it as you are, then it makes the game way more interesting.
What's the because like you were mentioning, like obviously like the gameplay is different because you're on hardcore. So like I know like in a regular, I don't know, RPG or something like Oblivion or something, you could be like, I'm going to experiment what happens, and like I'm going to jump off this ledge, I'm going to go into that cave, I'm going to go fucking do that, whatever. What's the consequence for people who do that in the normal? Like they don't lose their character, and I remember like you run back with a ghost, but do you lose gear or anything? Because obviously like deleting the character is the ultimate Jesus, but like what is the like? Is there a consequence for people being like careless otherwise?
Yeah, the consequence is just like when you die, you have to then do the run back to your body, which can take a long time because every zone, I think, typically only has one graveyard. There might be some larger zones that maybe have two.
Okay.
In Classic, in retail, every zone has like 6 graveyards now, so you're never too far away from your body. So the punishment is like the run back, and then also you lose durability on all your equipment. Whatever's equipped when you die, it loses like 10% or 20% durability when you die. So if you just keep dying, then all your gear breaks, and then you have to go repair it. And then like if your weapon's broken, it doesn't work, you can't use that weapon. If your armor's broken, it like falls off, it goes back into your inventory, and you can't equip it. You don't gain any stat benefits or armor from it. So mostly that. It's pretty minor.
Okay.
Matt, what are you playing?
Me? I've been playing Stalker 2 still. Something horrible happened. So I've been working in what I've described as the swamps, and in fact, the NPCs in the game describe it as the swamps, and it is a swamp. So I'm playing in the swamps, or so I thought. And then I was given a quest. I'll just spoil where I was going for the quest. So I was going to the Clear Sky base, and there's all these sort of they call them they're PSI, which I believe is called G radiation like emitters, G emitters. Basically, it makes you go mad, makes you go crazy. You start hallucinating, shit's real bad. And they basically said, okay, you gotta like, if you want to get to the Clear Sky base, you got to turn off these G emitters, and obviously getting close to them, which is what you need to do to turn them off, is really bad. So I enter this area, and it reveals to me that the area that I was in, which I already knew was called, or known as quote unquote the swamps, is formerly named Zatan. This new area is just called swamps. So I ended up going from the swamps to the swamps. It fucking sucks. And let me tell you, that fucking swamp sucked. That was easily the hardest part of that game. I was running terrified. People were shooting me. I had instance where like I'd move to a place, somebody's trying to kill me. I would kill one guy, he would be a hallucination. And the only way to tell is after you shoot him, they disappear. but they don't disappear right away sometimes. They disappear after a little bit. So I go over to loot him, then a fucking dog comes running at me. So it's like, oh shit. So I go running away to like get high ground from a dog. Then all of a sudden there's like an anomaly in the way. So I'm trying to like fight this anomaly, but as I'm fighting the anomaly, some other guy comes up, is trying to shoot me in the back. Then another group spawns beside them. They're killing those guys. That was a freaking nightmare of a place. So my survival tactic became there was four, I want to say 3 or 4 G emitters. My thing became go to the G emitter, which was usually high up, turn it off, and prepare myself to lower the amount of weight I had on me, and then fucking run. Because this place, I was using ammo, I was getting shot. I had this incident where I turned off the G emitter, and I'd already killed like multiple people. I found an artifact. Like, it was just freaking chaos. And all of a sudden, this like dog, I hear a dog bark, and I'm like, oh great, these like mangy dogs are really fucking annoying in this game. And it was a wolf, and this wolf decided to howl, and it like emitted a poof of G, I don't know, and about 70 wolves came out of this damn thing. So I'm like, okay, these are likely fake. So I'm killing them, and I just kept killing them. And eventually I didn't see anymore, but it said it was still hostile in the area. So I was like, all right. So I go down, I come down from my tower, I'm looking around. I'm like, okay, it was probably a hallucination. And then some guy spawned with a shotgun and shot me in the face, and I died. And he was a hallucination because I killed him as I was dying, and I saw that he poofed. I went to another area, and this like weird cat kept like, it was like a cat mutant, kept like making my guy like half fall asleep and like hallucinate. And I kept hearing what I thought was a bloodsucker, which is a real pain in the ass invisible enemy in the game. And I was like, I swear to God, there's a bloodsucker around here. And right as I solved the puzzle and went into like a super vulnerable position, a bloodsucker came hunting in the area. So I was running away from that. I found a bunch of loot, though. I got a whole bunch of loot, which was great. Some unique weapons from the story, which I won't spoil. But holy frick, like if you're at the Clear Sky base, like loot the shit out of that place. You get some good loot in there. And that's probably the best part of this game is that like I'm going into like a shitty area and I'm getting a bunch of loot. Like I've probably found 5 or 6 artifacts as I'm not intentionally hunting them throughout my entire playthrough at this point. Like I'm over 24 hours in now, but I've gotten 4 or 5 just from the swamps. This game has like a great pacing for loot. Like it makes you want to go and run around and loot places, even when you're like hurt or like whatever. So basically anyway, so I finished this mission. And there's this place called the Warden's Hut. So the Clear Sky base is in this section of the swamps that is like sort of surrounded by deep water, and you can't go through it. So this like Warden's Hut like kind of allows you to pass through it, and I believe it's only pass in. But there's other ways to like pass out. Like there's like half broken bridges that are kind of ramped up, so you can like run and jump. So I leave this area, I get the hell out of there, and I'm like, all right, I'm out of this like crappy area of the swamp. I'm out of here. I get out of there finally, and immediately somebody radios me. They're like, you know, Skiff, you got to come over here. That's your character name. Skiff, you got to come over here. Like, we want to have a chat. So it's like, all right. So I go and I talk to these guys. They're explaining some story stuff to me, whatever. And immediately an entire like moral and combat situation breaks out. I'm carrying like 2 hours worth of loot. My guy's literally popping steroids like crazy just to be able to walk properly.
Oh my God.
All fucked up. Yeah, it's called Hercules, actually. I'm all fucked up. I'm actually tired because I've been running scared for like 2.5 hours. Like there were literally times where I'm like, okay. And I'd like look out the window, and it's like, okay, am I ready to run? And like grab a pistol, grab my detector. That's like the lightest thing I could have. That's also useful. Like, okay, and run. And the instant I run, you just hear like, "Rah!" Like all these like other dogs and people are shooting at me and shit. I did run into a crazy scenario where I was fighting about 10 or 15 zombies. Now, zombies aren't like flesh-eating zombies like normal. They're people that have been completely driven mad by G radiation. And so they're still human, but they're mad. Some of them are like functionally mad. Normally those are story people. Other of them will just be like, if you go near them, they'll be like, someone here. And then they start shooting. It's pretty scary, actually. So I got in this massive gunfight with like 6 or 7 of them. And I'm just like, I'm tired. I'm running out of ammo. I'm like, Jesus Christ. So I run. I have a clip of this. I run from the swamps because somebody's shooting at me. I think I killed them all. Someone's still shooting at me. I run into this hut. And I'm like, okay, this is where they live. I'm going to find some ammo. I'm going to hide in here. He's going to run in here. I'm going to Gerard Butler. I get in there, and this mutant like man with no neck and like a ripped shirt, like sucks my vision in to his, screams, my screen goes all fucked up. I'm like, now what is going on? And then he's just like, kind of like fed up with me and just starts walking away. So I start chasing him with a Saiga 12 and I'm just pounding the shit out of his head with this shotgun. He like fucks me up a few times. I eventually kill him. I killed the zombie. And that was Stalker 2 for me. It was fucked. Like that game I've always said is like pretty hard, but the gear makes up for it and you get used to the zone. You get used to being like, hey, I think there's a bloodsucker around here. It's like you get a second sense. Whereas this was something. However, I will be back because there's a whole bunch of friggin' loot to be had. Like, for example, I was completely over encumbered and I saw this helicopter and this helicopter was just randomly crashed and it had this lightning coming out of it. And I was like, that doesn't look normal. So I'm like, it's probably an anomaly, but I'll go look. And it is an anomaly, but there's also an artifact nearby. So I'm like, God damn it. Okay, we got to find this artifact. I find it. I walk a couple more feet. Thing starts beeping. There's another friggin' anomaly nearby. So I'm, like I said, I'm popping friggin' Hercules because they're time limited like crazy. And they're 2,000 coupons each, which is the currency. That game's fucking hard. Like, but what's super cool is there's going to be some like changes, as far as I can tell, that are going to come to the zone. So I'll spoil like a side quest. There's 2 ships in the game. So I believe it's in one of the other games. There's this ship called I don't know. I'm not going to try to say the Ukraine or Russian names. There's like this big ship. It's like an old tanker and it's like a town, right? And this guy used to run it and he kind of gets kicked out by this other guy named the Sultan and they're bandits and you can work with them or whatever. And he leaves, he goes and lives in Pripyat for a few years. And then he comes back to the swamps and he, with the Sultan's permission, takes over a smaller barge down the road. Now, and these two areas become, quest areas. They become population areas. But the guy who just recently set up, not only is he upset that his barge was taken away years ago, but he's also upset because his town sucks. Like it doesn't have all the amenities. Like he doesn't have a tech and things like that. So I just got a quest randomly. I went into the Sultan's place. I always go to the Sultan's place because it has all the stuff and I need it, especially when I'm all beat to shit. And this lady comes over and she's like, hey, by the way, like, I'm actually the one that pulls the strings around here. And she's like, the Sultan and the other guy, I forget his name, are going to go meet. She's like, why don't you just kind of like take a sniper and just sort of like kill them both. And then I could just run this whole area. And so I was like, yeah, okay. Because that other town sucks. Every time I go to that other town, I'm like all beat up. I'm like, oh, thank God I'm in this other town. And I get there and I'm like, and there's no one here to repair my guns. This place sucks. So yeah, I'm going to see if I can change. Because she also made a note. She said, once I'm done establishing Zaton, because there's effectively 2 factions running around, kind of like partially warring and stuff. She's like, once I'm done figuring out Zaton, she's like, I can then put my eyes on the rest of the zone. And I'm like, man, this game's like weird where it's like, it feels really like I'm alone with the mutants sometimes. And then other times it's like, I'm freaking changing like the zone's government sometimes. It's freaking awesome. So I'm really enjoying this game. I am leaving Zaton though. I'm leaving the swamp. I've already left the swamps and I'm leaving the Zaton, which is also the swamps. And I'm heading for another place, which I won't say where it is for story purposes, but I'm finally leaving these shitty swamps.
And now into the sewers.
I already came out of the sewers, Ryan. And honestly, one time I ran into those sewers so fast, it was like, an emission, stalkers. And I was like, fuck, where do I go? And I looked around and I was all beat up and I was like, fuck, I'm going to that sewer.
God.
I fucking ran into that sewer and there was a bunch of snorks in there and they almost killed me. But it was, man, that game is fucked. Like what's crazy about it is it's weird to compare it to Dying Light, but with Dying Light, I always had fun when I played it, but I never wanted to go back. With Stalker, I always have fun playing it and I always want to go back. So it's just,
That's a sign of a good game.
It's a sign of a good game. Yeah. Like I'll even like plan things out sometimes, watch a bit of watch some video here and there. Sometimes people give me some spoilers that I don't want, but like I'll watch some videos and stuff and yeah, man, having a good time. So that's Stalker 2. Other than Stalker, I've been playing Call of Duty, of course, Black Ops 6. Did a bit of Apex, 1 win, I think, this week. Pretty good. And what else have I done? Oh, weird one. I booted this up just because I got really stressed out by Stalker one night, and I was all amped up. So I just randomly booted up for the first time since I booted the demo up as a kid. Friggin' Republic Commando.
Yeah, that's wild.
I have it on Xbox, and I was just like, I want something that I don't really care about. I just want something to do. And so I was just like, you know what? Like, I care enough to complete this, but like, I'm not going to take it super serious. Why not? And that's what I've been playing. I've been playing a little bit of Republic Commando. I did just one session. Hilariously, I did great throughout the tutorial, obviously. Did great for the first mission, obviously. Then they kind of like leave me to my own devices, and I got my ass kicked. So that was good. And then I turned that off because I was like, all right, Stalker kicked my ass tonight. That other game kicked my ass. It's like, okay, like time to go watch the Make Masters. But that's it. That's been my week. Oh,
what?
A random voice assistant said that she's not quite sure how to help me with that.
Okay. All right.
Oh.
I've been playing Indiana Jones mostly, and
Nice.
the greatest of circles, really.
The biggest, the greatest.
The best circles.
The best.
It's been enjoyable. It does have one annoying thing that I don't like. It just has to do with like when you're sprinting around. If you get caught up on anything, or like you fall down like a little like gap or something, it's like the sprinting just turns off. And so if you're Indiana Jones, I'm freaking climbing over rubble and through all these crazy things, and it's like I'm sprinting down like a hallway or something, and you get caught up on something, and you just stop. Still a weird little annoying thing, but other than that, the game's great. Highly recommend it. It's not doing what you're saying though, Matt. I'm having fun when I'm playing it, but when I'm done, I'm not having any draw to get back to it. So I've had to be like, make a tea and go sit down and play Indiana Jones. But then once I'm in it, it's like, oh, yeah, I'm having a good time.
Well, when was
It's
the
probably-
last game that made you want to play it? Because you said you've been having kind of trouble in that way for a while.
Yeah, it's been a while since I've had a game where it's just like I need to be playing that. I guess I would be Elden Ring, maybe.
Damn. I was gonna say what's Tim's, but Tim's is World of Warcraft.
It really is though. Like when I'm not playing it, I'm like looking forward to the next time I can play it. And it's I don't know. It's just a combination of multiple things. I think it's just I'm already nostalgic for it because I played it as a kid and teenager, and it feels like I'm getting a chance to play classic that I didn't get the first time around because I didn't know anybody else that wanted to play it back then, and now I do know people, and we can play like a modernized version of it. So it's cool.
It's the sign. Well, I think you just said it right. As I was saying, it's the sign of a good game.
Yeah, I mean,
I don't
like,
know.
what?
I don't know if I would consider WoW honestly, I don't know if I would consider it to be like a good game.
Really?
I think it's just that like it's fun enough, but it's not necessarily like the game for me that's the good part. I think it's more the people.
Oh, okay.
The
yeah.
game is just an excuse.
Yeah.
But that being said, I am still playing it on its own, but I think, or rather on my own, but I think that's mostly because of like nostalgia. Like I think I wouldn't put World of Warcraft in my like top list of games for me, gameplay wise, but I think that the experiences that I've had playing the game are things that I think of very fondly.
Like you're looking forward to the next social thing.
Yeah, like when I sit and think about playing it, I'm thinking like, oh, it's like what I'm looking forward to is mostly like playing with people, yeah. More than I'm like, oh man, I can't wait to get into the zone and grind for half a level. You know?
I feel like I'm growing numb to like the excitement of video games. Because it's like, you know, late high school and like college, it was like almost every game was that for me, where it's like I wanted to get home and play it.
Mm-hmm.
But now it's like that's like a once in a blue moon kind of game. It has to be something really special, like an Elden Ring or something like that. And I'm just wondering, like, just over time, I guess your tastes kind of just you're used to it. A lot of games are very similar, and you just kind of grow numb to it all. I actually I don't remember the full details on that. I think it was a Vsauce video where he talked about how at a certain point you will have laughed at, like you will have already experienced the funniest thing you've already seen.
Right.
And if you notice, I don't know if you guys have the same experience, but like I would have endless laughing fits when I was a lot younger than I do nowadays. You know, points where you just can't stop laughing.
Yeah, uncontrollable laughter, like laughing till you're crying, kind of laughing.
Yeah,
Yep.
and that happens far more seldomly now
Of course.
than it did when I was younger. And it's just like you just kind of get used to stuff. You've seen it all
Yeah.
after a certain point, you know?
Yeah. I don't know. I think it depends on the person too. Like I definitely have friends who laugh much more easily at things than other friends do.
Mm-hmm.
And it can be something that I will look at and I will go like, oh, yeah. And they'll be like rolling on the floor, like crying, laughing.
Yeah.
And it's like, I don't find it that funny, but the fact that you find it that funny is kind of funny.
Yeah.
And so then you're going to end up laughing more at the fact that they're laughing than the thing. So I think it's probably maybe more so a matter of just like finding those people that can show you different ways of appreciating something.
I can definitely replay scenes in my head and laugh like as if it happened to me, or like very similar. Like if I replay like a really stupid scene, I can get laughing pretty good, even if it's from years ago. Like I'm not used to some of the stuff,
especially when it's something you haven't thought about in a while, right? Like I think you're right, Ryan, in that you do literally kind of like go numb to certain things. Like things just don't get you in the same way because you get desensitized to them. But if you can, you think about something you haven't thought about for a little while, and then it gets you again.
Yeah,
like that's pretty good.
I wonder almost, I'm not going to do this obviously, but I wonder if I should take like a year or two break from games.
Oh my God.
And then come back and like kind of detox from them and get back into it.
I mean, I definitely, it's also different if you're like doing multiple things at the same time. Like when I didn't play, like to be completely candid, I've been playing at least a little bit of WoW, I think almost every day. Like if I've been playing games 99% of the time, it's been WoW. And when I played Dragon's Dogma, I didn't play WoW that day, and I think I didn't play it the day after either because we were just kind of doing like life stuff. And when I went back to it again and booted it back up and played it and was playing it again, I obviously was like still familiar with it because it only been a couple days since I played it, but I guess because I like kind of got used to the like graphic style of other games and things like that, and also just hadn't been gaming for a couple of days, to sit back down and play it again, it felt kind of like weirdly fresh. And I remember noting that and thinking like, this is weird. Like I have across decades, probably thousands of hours in World of Warcraft. Like this is nothing I haven't seen before, but it's just in that very particular moment where I sat down to play it again and I was like kind of running around. It was almost like I had this weird, like, it just had like this freshness to it that I hadn't like seen in a while. It was like I had like you say, detoxed from it, and it was like I was going in again for the first time, and I was like, this game looks like kind of different than it normally looks. And then it wore off in like 10 minutes, but
yeah,
it's just funny. The brain works.
Matt, you forgot about the major game we played, Suicide Squad.
Oh God.
Rocksteady's Suicide Squad.
Yeah.
It is the free game with PlayStation Plus this month. We all downloaded it. We all played it. We all had a jolly good time.
I was gonna wait for Adriano, and I still will play like from the beginning with him. Like, that's totally fine. Like I'll start another character because he's been wanting to play it.
We were just kind of checking it out too.
Yeah. It's okay. it crashed a few times, and fuck.
Yeah, I was surprised by how many like kind of bugs we ran into, even just like connecting and getting into lobbies. And so I think all of us probably crashed at some point, right?
Oh man, the fucking connection time! It's like GTA 5, like literally sitting in the clouds loading screen. Yeah. It's like, oh my God, like freaking load, like please.
Well, I wonder if that's part of them not being a multiplayer online title or developer. And all of a sudden they had to make this co-op game. It's just like, what are we doing?
The story is funny though. Like the cutscenes are funny. We were getting pretty good. Like I was walking around and like, I didn't realize this, but I thought Batman was just killing people in like cutscenes. And then I was like I was the goon. I was like, hey, what's that thing over there? And I walked over and then Batman fucking killed me.
It's the Bat.
Yeah.
But what's awesome is like right after that, we're like you three were like still walking around, and then Marty got fucking Marty got decked in a cutscene by Batman.
I guess we don't care about spoiling Suicide Squad, but there's actually
the first mission.
There's actually a really cool sequence where you're in this like, I don't know, factory building or warehouse or whatever, and you're walking through, and we kind of did separate just naturally. and all the lights are off. Batman shut the power off. We're walking through, and then Matt's just like, Batman killed me. And we're like, what? What do you mean Batman killed you? You're like, I'm dead. Like, you couldn't control your character anymore.
No, I was dead.
Like,
Yeah.
what the hell's going on? And then I think, who else were Aaron? I think Aaron then got killed by Batman. And it was just like, what? How is that possible?
It's the
and
bat.
And then me and Marty start freaking out because we know Batman's like killing our squad here. And so we're trying to look for the exit out of this building. And Marty goes to this door, opens it up, and Batman's there and just decks him. And Marty crumbles into this like ball of like human. It's horrible.
That's so funny though.
So that's the sad part. From what I can tell, the game seems cool in terms of the characters and the story and the visuals. That's all like great. Even the encounters we're having with Batman and stuff. But the core functionality of the game is what sucks. Shooting those mindless like alien creatures and then shooting the purple orbs on like ships and stuff.
Oh,
It's just not that fun.
it's insufferable, honestly.
Yeah. And it's like there's a good single player game there that's trying to claw its way out of the multiplayer co-op thing.
And not everybody should just have guns. It's like, we're kind of superhero-ish. Get a couple of guns and make sure you do a bit of looting to get better guns. It's like, why do we all have guns here, boys? Like,
And it's like it doesn't have that amazing combat that the Arkham games had. The staple of the Arkham games was the combat. It doesn't have it. It's just like, that's a wild decision. So
what other game were we talking about that could have had that? Oh, friggin' Atlas Fallen.
Mhm.
We were talking about how it should have had like that seamless, like, you're fighting two people, you knock one out so you can turn to the other and just kind of seamlessly start fighting.
because in Batman, when you get your combos up, you can fly literally across the whatever room you're in.
Yeah.
So you're punching one guy out, he's knocked out, and then your next combo literally flies Batman to the next guy, and it's just seamless. But in Atlas Fallen, it's like you kill a monster, and then I'm there swinging in the air, like I'm floating still, and I'm just swinging at nothing, and it's just like, oh, I gotta drop and then jump over to the thing. It's
What'd you call
Really
them?
annoying.
Dragon beings? When meanwhile we're just human. You're like, we're like dragon beings. I'm like, no, we're fucking humans in armor. Like, what?
Well, I was trying to figure out what to explain the magical world. I thought we were dragon beings or something.
We're humans cross Navi.
Yeah. But anyway, that's it. Tim, where can they watch you streaming your wows?
Yeah,
Your
that sounds like
wowza.
Many wows.
many wows. Anyway, every once in a while, anyway. I think I'm gonna I'm definitely playing a lot of WoW, but I think I'm gonna be doing less for stream unless I'm like actually playing with people who are also streaming it. And also I just like I don't want to be focusing more on the stream than the game and then have like a lapse in and then, like get just distracted or whatever and then like lose my character because of something stupid like that. So I think like genuinely I'm going to mostly be playing when I can like focus up and lock in, or maybe just have like a stream specific character. But anyway, twitch.tv/the sidetrack. Like I said, we're doing Dragon's Dogma 2. I think there's still a lot of content to get into there. But aside from that, there are a couple of games that are coming out soon, actually, this month and then next month that I'm really looking forward to, some big RPGs and stuff. So if RPGs are your thing and action games with the occasional WoW sprinkled in every once in a while, like I said, twitch.tv/the sidetrack and occasionally twitch.tv/Day One Patch Media when on Wednesday nights.
Yeah, if you're joining us next week or this coming Wednesday, we might be playing Halo Wars. And if not, we'll be playing Atlas Fallen.
There you go.
All right.
Atlas Fallen's pretty rugged sometimes.
It's fine.
So let's hope for Halo Wars.
It's fine. The game's fine. It's not great. It's not amazing. It's fine. All right. We'll see you guys next time.
Hey, yo, peace.